thing's for sure. I'm done running from my past.
All right, welcome. We're going to talk about the new Black Widow movie. What was the title? Was it just Black Widow?
Black Widow. Yeah.
Okay.
It's called Black Widow 2021 film because there's been like 5 or 6 other Black Widow films throughout the years.
Okay.
That were not related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Gotcha. I didn't know if it had like a subtitle or something I've missed. I didn't think it did. Yeah, we're just going to talk about what we thought about the film. Maybe suggest if you should see it. Sarah, what did you think?
I'm kind of on the fence about it. So there's definitely things that I liked. I liked that it was a true female-led action movie, and there weren't any gratuitous sex scenes. There was no needless romance. There was nothing. It was like a normal action movie just with a bunch of girls in it. And so there wasn't any, needless scenes that didn't really add to the plot. But I will say, so I mean, they're competing with all the Wonder Woman stuff. So they wanted to come out with a female-led, female-empowered movie. So I got it. It was a little long, in my opinion. It could have been 90 minutes easy, maybe even less. But it was 2 hours and 15 minutes. And then there was that extra scene at the end of the credits, which you had to sit through that. So I watched it with my son, and he was ready to go after like an hour. So, but it was good. It had some good moments in it. It didn't give me any more insight into the Black Widow character. Like it told us a little bit about her childhood and stuff like that, but stuff I feel like we already knew. So it really wasn't any. I don't know. I don't know if I would buy it, or if I didn't get it on Disney Plus when it comes out in, I think, September. I don't know if I would seek out this movie to watch it again. It was fun. There was a lot of action. The bad guy, I wasn't satisfied quite with that whole situation. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I would see it again.
Chip, what about you?
Well, I've already seen it twice. I saw it on Friday, and then I saw it again today. I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it. It's just fun. It was kind of like, I felt like, and I think I told you when we went and saw it, I feel like it's like the female Winter Soldier movie. I mean, it had a lot of feel of the Winter Soldier, a lot of that past coming back to haunt you, or you have to confront your past, all that kind of stuff. I liked a lot of the actors in it. I thought everybody did a good job. I didn't like it. It was a good movie, a good superhero movie to take my daughters to see. I thought it was, it's kind of like a James Bond film once again, but without any of the romance or any of that kind of stuff. And the sisters, like, they played off each other well, and the whole thing. It's also the first, I just read, it's the first film in phase 4. So this is the first phase 4 film, because what most people don't realize is Spider-Man Far From Home was the final stage,
right.
Phase 3 film, which most people thought that ended with Endgame, but no, it actually ended with Spider-Man. So this is the first of the phase 4 films. There was some great stuff in it. There was some stuff, I mean, for the comic geek, there were definitely a lot of little touchstones, a lot of things that I don't want to say because I don't want to spoil anything.
Oh, I think we'll put spoilers on this. We won't talk about anything if we don't.
Right. The one piece of advice I would have to anybody going to see it, if you haven't finished Falcon and the Winter Soldier, finish it before you go see it, and only because that will help you make sense of the after credits scene.
Good point. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I didn't love it. I would put it sort of in the middle, maybe, of the of the MCU. Maybe a little low, maybe like middle, but just maybe 47%, or however you want to say that. I thought it's the third act is where it really, I thought, just sort of fell off the wheels. It was almost,
there was no way they weren't going to succeed.
yeah. And to your point, sir, about the main villain is off screen because they're going to look for him. Spoiler alert. They're going to look for the main. So, and then they tried to solve that a little bit by putting Taskmaster in, which when that originally started, I was like, okay, cool. I mean, I don't think Taskmaster looked that bad. There's people I've seen that don't like that, but the reveal of it compared to how cool in the comics Taskmaster was, I thought it was just that kind of ruined it. I mean, you have a villain who has a pretty cool backstory and is also tied in the comics, not in this movie, but in the comics, he's an assassin. There's a little bit of a double agent going on for him in a couple of storylines. So he does tie in. He was never really, I don't ever remember thinking of him as being tied to a single hero.
He always ran his mouth that he beat Captain America once.
Right.
Like, he was really boastful and everything, but he was kind of a mercenary / assassin.
Right.
So
he was really funny in the movie. Like, he was definitely the comic relief in the whole thing.
No, you're thinking of you're thinking of Red Guardian.
Yeah, but he's the one who kept saying that he
right, but no, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
Taskmaster in the comic books.
Okay. Yeah, Taskmaster didn't talk.
Yeah, he didn't talk at all.
It's hard to have a good character when you don't say anything and you're a robot.
Well, say they, so you don't give it away.
Well, it's too late. I mean, I think everybody knows anyway. I don't think that's been the knock that I've seen the most on it. But I did like I said, the ending. It's almost like it was a tale of two movies. It almost seemed like there were a couple rewrites, and then after they filmed it, they were in editing. They went, the stuff with the family really worked. So they spread that. This is what I feel like. They spread that out, and then they tried to condense all that stuff in to make it a part of the MCU really, and have the superhero stuff. And they sort of slam all that in the end.
Well, they won too easy. I know. So who said that? You said
it was inevitable. Like,
but it was a really easy win. It was such an easy win. I mean, they exactly how they talked about it. There was no great oh shit moment where you thought maybe this wasn't going to work out. It was one guy, and he was easy to get to, easy to trick, easy to get all the information. It was simple. Like, there was no hardship. There was no, like that kind of thing. Right. Yeah. And so it was just like, it was just too easy. And he was too simple of a villain. Like, it was just very simple.
He was too two-dimensional.
Yeah.
He didn't have any depth.
Yeah. It was just
the bad guy.
Not. Yeah, but I feel like they rushed that whole part. I feel like they completely rushed it. And I think you're right, Scotty. They stretched out all the camaraderie, the family, the funny stuff. And then when they got to the actual beating the bad guy up, it was just like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, moving on.
But the Red Guardian was probably one of the best. I mean, him, and then that was the one. I'll go ahead and give away the one touchstone thing when he's in there talking to the blonde Black Widow. I don't remember what her name was. Yelena.
That's it.
When he's talking to Yelena, and she goes, "Whatever, I don't want to hear any more about you being the Crimson Dynamo."
Yeah.
Which is the other one.
Red Guardian. The Crimson Dynamo is the communist bad guy for Iron Man. He was like the Russian. He was the commie. Iron Man was a Crimson Dynamo, and the communist or the Russian Captain America was the Red Guardian. So that was funny that she called him by the wrong name because, and it, like obviously that was a character too. So I guess we'll eventually see but they did keep, but that one guy did make a really good point, which they never, I don't know what happened with that when he's like, wait a minute, when did this happen? Like 83, 84, Captain America was still on the ice. So who is it that he thought he fought?
Yeah.
He didn't. I think he just made that up. He was just being boastful.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
And the main character, I mean, the main villain, they had been setting that up for a while because Loki mentions the daughter. I can't think of the main villain's name, but mentions the daughter to Black Widow in the first Avenger. I think it's the first Avenger.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's early. So they had been, and this movie was originally, if I remember right, supposed to be like a phase 2 movie. So it was supposed to actually come out earlier, along with, I'm going to say it wrong. What's the, what's the next?
Shang-Chi.
Oh,
Yes.
and the 10
Shang-Chi.
rings.
Yeah.
I really want to see that.
And
That
that
looks amazing.
that thing's been in plans for over 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So those two movies were supposed to come out earlier, and because of just how certain things went, they got pushed back. So they've been setting that up, but yeah, I thought for the most part, I think I wouldn't, to your point, Sarah, I wouldn't buy it. I think I'll watch it again when they do release it on Disney Plus, but it's not one I'm gonna, I'm not gonna turn it on. Like every once in a while, I'll just turn one of them on and watch half of it or watch part of it.
Yeah.
It's normally Guardians of the Galaxy for me. Like if I want to have a good time, I'm just going to watch that because the music's great. But yeah.
Well, what did you guys think of the last scene? The end credit, I should say, the end scene. The credits.
I think it does a good setup for one of the next MCU shows. And originally, I thought that show was all going to take place. What I had heard was it took place between Infinity War and Endgame, but it turns out that it's going to take place after that too. So
the Hawkeye, we can go ahead.
The Hawkeye show. So she'll be in the Hawkeye show.
So I did want to ask you guys, the villain, I guess I'm guessing she's a villain. I mean, she's dressed as one, everything like that. What is her character's name? Because she's been on the end of.
She's Val, and she's got this real long name.
Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. And she was in the comic books, she was a member of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury's girlfriend.
Okay.
And then she ended up being a double agent. She was part of Hydra, and she was Lady Hydra.
Okay.
At some point.
But it also looks like she's probably going to be. There was another Val, if I remember right, that came later.
Victoria Hand.
Right. Exactly. And then
she was the right hand man of
Norman Osborn.
Norman Osborn when he ran Hammer.
And they can't use Norman Osborn right now because he's owned by Sony.
Right.
But they'll probably
don't. I'm fine with him never mentioning his name in the MCU because all he does is muddle shit up.
That's his job. So they're probably setting up the Thunderbolts or something like the Thunderbolts.
Yes, yeah, exactly. But it'll be led by her instead of
Yeah, so it will somehow feed in that, which will probably.
And she is a member of the Thunderbolts in the comic books.
There you go.
Well, that's good.
Yelena is. Yeah, that's right.
So that's.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what happens because she's a great actress. She was in Seinfeld. I can't remember what her name is. The actress's name.
Louise Dreyfus.
Yes. She's
also
amazing
in a couple seasons of Saturday Night Live.
Well, that's right. Back when they tried to when they were trying to revive it.
Yeah.
What's the other Marvel movie that character popped up in? And I was trying to think of it, and I just hadn't had time.
Soldier.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
That's where she got sort of, and that's why she talks to John Walker at the end. And there's speculation that he's at a low. She kind of swoops in and gets him when he's at a low. Same thing here with her sister having just died. It looks like she's swept in and
I mean, visiting her at her grave. I mean, come on. And
Dude.
she like appeared. She didn't like come in. She just appeared. So here's this Black Widow who would be able to tell if somebody was coming up, and all of a sudden, poof, there she is.
You notice she
talking to
didn't
her.
react or jump when she was there, so she knew she was there.
Yeah,
So,
But she told her she was supposed to leave her alone while she had basically
On
on
her holiday.
vacation.
on her
Yeah.
vacation, yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
she's working with her.
Yelena, well, yeah, because Yelena, that character in the MCU's always been like just an assassin. I mean, she has no connection in the comic book. She has no connection to Natasha Romanoff other than they were both trained to be Black Widows, but she doesn't have any emotional attachment to
She's
her.
got some great lines, and I like her as more of like in all the action movies, you got one cowboy who's just like, today's a good day to die, you know, that kind of stuff. And so I liked
She
her
had all the
as
great,
that.
she did have all the good
Yeah,
lines.
and that she didn't use that line, so no, I wasn't spoiling anything, but she's got some really great one-liners, and she's just, you know,
that's Worf. That's what all the Klingons say.
Well, she didn't say it's a good day to die. She kept saying, well, this will be a cool way to die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is not a cool way to die.
this is not a good way to die.
And how she kept making fun of Black Widow's posing, kept calling her a poser. That was good.
I think that's what worked the best was their sort of the chemistry. And then the family. I mean, that was by far the best. So they just sort of went, okay, this is what's working, and they kind of, made it more and more the movie.
The older Black Widow character who was also the scientist,
Rachel Weisz.
She is an amazing actress, and I was happy to see her in this, and she really did kind of push and pull with the other ones, and it was just their chemistry of the four main characters was just amazing to see, but their plot vehicle just wasn't as exciting as some of the other movies, but
a lot of this movie was set up because, once again, now the fact that everybody survived, like, I was totally convinced that Milena, which is Rachel Weisz's character, and the Red Guardian would not make it. I mean, they were going to die.
Somebody was going to.
The fact that everybody lived means they've got use for everybody. They'll show up again.
Milena is I think she's the Iron Maiden from the comics.
Oh
yeah, probably.
And if you kind of look, it was a little suspicious in that she had all that stuff. I mean, they've used the masks before. I thought that was a little of a cheap plot.
That's another thing I think that makes me go back to the Winter Soldier, because that was in the Winter Soldier.
That was in the and it was.
But also the Black Widow she pretended to be somebody like way in the beginning. She had the mask on. She was a woman.
Yeah, she did. And then she had the wig on, and I think first or second.
It was one of the really early movies, so they used that way back then.
But
Winter Soldier,
right? But the fact that she only had one earpiece. Oh, I've only got one earpiece. I mean, I don't know, maybe not, but it just sort of, and the way that everything went down.
Yeah.
She could certainly be more involved and still be a double agent, because you don't have a double agent right now. And it's looking more and more like if they're going to do Secret Invasion and Civil War and do all that, you're going to have some of that because of the espionage. So it was probably a setup. She probably down the road will have some role.
Yeah. I just found them to be overly confident. They busted in. Everybody was so overly confident. Rachel Weisz walks out on that platform, blows stuff up, and it's just like, I got this all the time.
Well, I mean, she's married to James Bond. I mean, Rachel Weisz is actually married to James Bond. So
which one?
The current one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
wow.
And so she's watching.
He's my least favorite.
Tasha is even more so than Timothy Dalton. Who I actually think
hate me in the comments. No, Sean Connery is my James Bond. I don't care who comes next. Sean Connery is my favorite.
But I mean, I was going to say Timothy Dalton, but I don't think it was his fault. I think those are bad scripts. That's a different podcast. If you
We
watch,
should talk about that.
she was watching Moonraker.
Yeah, that was good.
Watching Moonraker,
Yeah.
which is funny because that. But I thought that was kind of where they were going to go with it, and it was almost like they were kind of where the James Bond villain who's over boastful and.
Well, yeah.
And it's also the thing where we've got to get all off of this. We're all going to die, which is Moonraker, and it's like
The Spy Who Loved Me, and
like all the old all the Sean Connery ones were
Roger Moore ones.
and then even the Roger Moore ones because Moonraker was Roger Moore. But I kind of thought that's maybe where they were going to go with it, and maybe they were, and then they sort of edited that out.
Well, I don't think that. I mean, I think that they did. They were doing a little bit of everything because they could do what they weren't being held to a certain style of film.
Right.
And they just did a little bit of everything, and it definitely, the throwing the James Bond thing in there just because they're all like, they're all spies and all that kind of stuff. And I felt like the fight in Budapest, and when they were jumping off the thing and everything, that felt like a Jason Bourne movie to me.
It did, yeah, or like MI5 or something.
Yeah, so I felt like
Budapest was a throwback to her and Hawkeye's.
Well, yeah, that was where that's where they're like, this is just like Budapest. He's like, me and you remember Budapest very differently. So now we know a little bit of what that was.
I think that's what moving forward. I think that's going to be one of the things where Val misleads her, and whatever happened in Budapest, we'll probably find out more about.
Yeah,
She'll think it went down one way, and it probably went down another way, and because they've set that up a little bit to be brought back in. Because remember, she said, "What kind of bullet holes are those?" I'm pointing at you.
Yeah.
But and she goes, "Those are arrow points."
Yeah.
So I think there's probably like a tie-in with that.
Well, it'll all be we'll all get hopefully we'll get most, if not all, of those answers in the Hawkeye TV show, which is coming out later.
The end of this year, isn't it?
Yep.
So I think we get What If next, and then Hawkeye's after.
Well, What If is just an anthology cartoon.
It's cartoons, but I mean they're not going to stack them on top of each other.
It's not cartoons; it's animated. We need to
And we'll talk about that in another episode.
Oh, absolutely, we will.
Well,
I will talk about every single one of them.
I put on Infinity War today just to see when she comes back in that. I think she came back before, because doesn't she come back at the end? I'm trying to think if that's where she comes back into the MCU, or does she come back at the end where they break everybody off of the raft? Just doesn't she help do that?
So
you don't see that. All you see in the raft is you see the reflection of Steve Rogers.
That's right.
In the Falcon's glass.
That's right. Well, so but when they do show her, she's wearing the jacket. The jacket with all the pockets.
Yeah, the vest.
Yeah.
The super cool vest. It's super cool.
I totally relate with that. I love jackets with a ton of pockets.
I mean, girls' clothes don't have pockets.
Loaded with pockets that I love.
Typically, it's funny for me. It's funny on a couple levels for me because girls' clothes don't have no pockets. Or they have fake pockets. Why are there fake pockets? I have stuff I want to carry.
I had this exact discussion with my 10-year-old today.
But what if I don't want to carry my purse? Like the whole point is I want to be able to put one thing in my pocket and then walk out the door. Like, why can't I do that? Because I don't have pockets.
If you had that vest, you could.
I could. Yeah. I should get one.
I thought it was cool that they put
utility vest.
I thought that was funny. Yeah, it's got a lot of pockets.
Well, and I think overall, to sort of wrap up, I like that they sort of do things differently every now and then. I mean, WandaVision, I loved the idea and what they went for. It had its
execution was a little rough, but I like that they were
a little bit of that too. But for me, it was still. I mean, it wasn't Suicide Squad where I was like, I should probably just now.
Where I wanted to commit suicide halfway through it.
That's why they named it that. I remember thinking, Deadpool was on next door, and I remember in the middle of it going, I should just leave and go watch Deadpool for the 50th time or whatever. And I didn't want to. I know your son did, but I totally get. That's one thing I will say. I can totally see if you're into the MCU for more of the superhero stuff and more of sort of how a lot of the movies have been. This is a little bit different. You may be let down from that standpoint because it certainly was not,
But kudos for it being a real female action movie with no gratuitous scenes, nothing. It's just violence and camaraderie and humor, and nobody's scantily clad. Everybody's, they never did any of it.
Yeah.
And I greatly, deeply appreciate that as a woman, being able to watch an action movie with women in it where none of them are nude, none of them are somebody's random love interest, and none of them are just to be pretty.
Yeah.
So I just loved it. And not to say that they weren't gorgeous, they were absolutely wonderful, but just to say I appreciated that. Thank you, Disney.
Yeah, and then the one poor guy, the guy who kept getting him stuff, like, perfect opportunity to flirt with him, and all they were ever do is they were just mean to him.
Yeah.
Oh, you're sensitive.
Well, I think he was supposed to. I think he was supposed to be like the M character, and then wound up sort of through editing because
I don't think that they edited it that way. I think that's just the way it was.
What I mean is, I think he played more of a role. Because the movie, what is he in 2 scenes, 3 scenes, and he's fairly short.
3 scenes.
If you look on the poster, he's on the poster. So I think he was probably originally in it a little bit more.
Well, I mean, all of these movies are like 3+ hours and then edited down to 2 hours.
Sure. Right.
They film a lot of stuff they cut out, which is an unusual thing because usually they try not to film too much over because it costs so much money. But since all the MCU movies are guaranteed to make money, they go, we'll try what we want to try and then we'll edit it down.
Well, we'll see what works.
It bit them in the ass with the series because of COVID, because they kept trying to act like that, and then they couldn't get this subplot didn't work, or they had to drop this because they couldn't get somebody back for a reshoot. So but this movie was done and completed before COVID ever happened. So
as they started, I didn't realize that they had started the Falcon and Winter Soldier. That actually started before COVID, and then COVID happened in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So
the scenes in the movie were beautifully shot, beautifully set up. I mean, they went all over the world. I think they were in the Netherlands, they were in Budapest, they were here in Atlanta,
they were in Norway, they were in Morocco.
I mean, it's just
they were
beautiful.
In the clouds.
Yeah, they were in the sky.
Well, I like that it had, and just like Civil War and Infinity Wars, they had the bigger captions. Whenever they would go somewhere, they had those. Sort of kind of bookend that was in between the two of them.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because when they went to Boromir, it's like Boromir, because I thought that was it was good up until the one for the Red Room, and I was like, yeah, you don't have to do that. I know that that's what this is, but thanks.
Well, much for this one being a short one, guys.
Yeah, real. Oh well.
We were like, we're gonna just do a 10,
we just got to make sure we put spoiler alert all over this.
We will. Well, I think that will now. And we're certainly not the first people that we didn't talk that much about it, but we talked.
We didn't give too much away.
I think that's been sort of universally sort of panned.
Yeah, but they took Taskmaster with them, so she's gonna be in other stuff.
If Taskmaster, I don't think has been in all the Thunderbolt variations, but there was, I think he was in like 1 or 2.
He was, well, there was actually a really funny, so.
But he may want to be, or she may wind up, or wait,
hold on. There was a really funny arc where Deadpool was supposed to steal information from the Skrulls during Secret Invasion for Nick Fury, but what's his name? Osborn got a hold of it. So Deadpool kept going, "You owe me money," and was harassing Norman Osborn. So he sent the Thunderbolts after him, and they kept blowing him up, and then he just come back, and Taskmaster was his buddy. And through the whole thing, he was hitting on Yelena. And then at the end, he got his head cut off, and somebody sewed his head back on, and he's like, "Taskmaster, I didn't know you cared." He goes, "I didn't do that." And he goes, "It was Yelena," and that's how they ended it, with like him doing like this and the like hearts
coming out of it.
Yeah, so
Very cool.
but the Taskmaster was great in that. He was hilarious because he's like, "Oh God, why am I doing this? Why am I working with you?" You know, like the classic, really good Deadpool stuff. We can end on that.
Thanks for coming out.
Until next time. All right. I'm stopping recording.